Greetings and salutations. Here we are again on the banks of the canal of solitude. Right there. Chinese New Year's has just begun here, and which means my canal of solitude has gone from 0 people to some. Worse, the city is filling up with children. Can't swing a stick without hitting a children. We're way out here in the middle of, not nowhere, but like the rural part, so yeah, there's not very many children here, usually outside of New Year's. I'm 53 and I'm usually the youngest person around. Hey little boy. Hey little boy. Not really. That'd be funny if they did. Yeah, and there's traffic and stuff. This is not good. Anyway, coming at you with some deep thoughts on this Sunday afternoon. There's a bit of wind. I hope it doesn't mess with the microphone. Anyway, it's time to talk China stuff, because I just did a show with Newsfist, good friend Newsfist. Shout out to Newsfist, friend of the show Newsfist. We talked China stuff. It's time we talk some China stuff. It's been getting on my nerves. It's always on my nerves. People know that I'm here, and like all my friends are, not all, most of my friends are Republicans, and they're always coming at me with like, I heard this stupid thing on a podcast that has like 3 million subscribers, and you're over there, and gosh, I thought I'd check, is this true? And I checked, like, nope, that's not true. And then they get mad, and then I try to explain myself, and then they accuse me of being, accusing me of being a spy, which I'm not. It'd be funny if I was not. And then they block me, and I lose so many friends this way. I do. So if I just like make a video that's not directed at anyone in particular, just listing some facts. Yeah, all those shows, man. All those shows like Lao. First of all, Lao Huai. What a stupid name. What an idiot. Fucking moron. Why would you name your show that? And the China show and all these things. Like, first of all, they're so full of crap. Like being in China, right? Okay, all right. You wanna measure dicks? All right. I've been in China off and on since 1991, and without a break for about 28 years, I guess. I went back that one time. I went back for my grandfather's funeral, but aside from that, yeah, 28 years. Not that matters, right? Like, because I've met people who have been in country for longer than that and learned nothing, right? They live in Shanghai. They hang out at the French Quarter. We'll get to Shanghai in a minute. Shanghai is relevant to today's conversation. So why should you trust me? Well, you shouldn't. You should verify everything, I think. But I don't know. I've been thinking about this. Richard Feynman, the physicist, he said something that stuck with me. He says, you can tell a good answer from a bad answer because a good answer, a true answer, will make something you didn't expect come out right? A bad answer will usually just answer the question that you asked in maybe an emotionally satisfying way, but it doesn't help, information that isn't true doesn't help you do anything because it's not true. But if it is true, then it'll make something you didn't expect, like, oh, that explains this, or oh, that explains this other thing, right? Hopefully, I'm prefacing this too much. Okay, the first point I want to make is like the general unavailability of information, right, about China. It's not like the United States where everybody's constantly yammering about everything all the time. There's like 100 different factions, and everybody's got their own stupid opinion. Politics in general aren't. That's not true. Most, actually, just about all of the information that comes out of China is from Hong Kong or Taiwanese media, right? Not sympathetic. I'm not saying that I am, but I'm saying that they're definitely not. And a lot of it tends to be dissident media. Okay, from the Falun Gong, the Epoch Times, right? And a lot of it is connected to intelligence, as you would expect. As you would expect, right? Because at the moment, China and the United States are not friendly. At one point in the not too distant past, they were, and that's part of the story today. But yeah, so that like most of the information you get, like the people who talk all the time, those tend to be dissidents, right? And I don't know, if you're experienced with dissidents, you kind of learn how to read, right, what they're saying and like glean like useful facts out of it. But it's always bad news. It's the same as like the coverage of Russia or the coverage of North Korea or the coverage of Iran or anybody else who isn't sympathetic. Like they're on the verge of destruction constantly, or they're on the verge of doing something terrible, or I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about the terrible things. I just want to make that point. Anyway, no, today's topic, which I'm going to boldly call Chinese deep state. Such a thing exists. It's actually kind of a big deal. Okay. I think people in general, but I don't know, conservatives in particular, kind of have like this black box attitude toward China. Like, okay, like China is communist and communist is bad, therefore China is bad. And if you say that China is not communist, you're saying that they're not bad, which is nonsense on its face. So you must be some kind of a spy or a Wu Mao, right? Or you get direct deposits. You get $7,000 direct deposit into your account for shilling for the CCP. Those people are out there. I'm not one of those people. I am not important enough. It would be nice to have $7,000. Anyway, where was I going? Right. So, I thought I would try today to kind of explain like the this was very relevant 2 weeks ago when Xi sacked the head military guy, whose name I can't remember. I should have studied for this. Where was I? Oh, right. So I thought I'd get like a general lay of the land, right? of what Chinese politics are now, because there are internal politics, even though it's very difficult to get a beat on. Oh, right. The other thing I was going to say is that you'd think that like in the United States, like if there was dissident media, right, or if it was Russia or if it was any other country, right, the government would argue its side. Really, it would disprove, it would debunk the malicious claims made by the spies in the West or whatever. Chinese government doesn't do that, by and large, or at all. Because communism. Well, yes, but also no. I mean, so the communism certainly doesn't help, insofar as there is communism. It's mostly a cultural thing, right? And it goes to specialization, right? In here, as opposed to, let me throw this out there. I want to debunk another thing, like how Asians are smarter than Westerners. It's not true. Higher IQ. It's not true. What it is out here, like people are specialized, right? They do their job, the thing they are trained to do. If you were a doctor or an engineer or a bricklayer or a game designer, that is the thing you do, and that is all you do, right? And you are extremely specialized in it, and by and large, because of that specialization, you will be more adept than a Westerner is, unfortunately. All right. In the West and in the United States in particular, we're we're forced to be generalized, right? Partly because people are very unreliable. But if you're an American, right, you have a basic working knowledge of astronomy and physics and chemistry and medicine and anatomy and psychology and geography that like the average Northeast Asian just does not have, right? You try to discuss like medicine, like medicine's a big one, right? There, if you have my foot bad, I need foot medicine, right? And well, okay, what exactly is the condition? Like, what is the makeup of these pills? If you're an American, like you should know, you will know the answers to those questions. If you're Chinese or Japanese or Korean, you will go to the hospital and the doctor will say, take these, and you say, okay, and you just do it. And there's no space or time wasted in your brain thinking about what this pill is or what it does, right? You just do it. Right, so, and that goes to politics, right? Because there is no tradition of democracy here. There is no tradition of civic engagement. So if politics is not your job, you just don't do it. You know, you leave it to somebody whose job that it is. And if it is your job, then you are probably in the party and working in the government. Me, because like, I do not work in the government, but I am very interested in politics. And I will try to bring up the topic of conversation with my friends. Like, do you work? They're confused. Like, why are you talking about politics? Do you work in the government? Do you want to work in the government? Like, and they don't work in the government, so they're just not interested. That's not true of everyone. It's true of a lot of people. Yeah. So the attitude of the CCP is like, politics is our job, not yours. And not only do they not want you criticizing you, obviously, they do not want you criticizing them, they also don't want you supporting them either, which is something, right? A while ago, like, you know this, it was a Virtue Signal the Game. I have it uploaded, the project uploaded to Jiangku, which is a kind of the Chinese, or it used to be, it kind of fallen on hard times. It used to be like a designer, graphic designer, kind of a website. When it was a big deal, I was a big deal, and it is no longer a big deal, and so my huge following in that site counts for nothing. But anyway, no, I was changing some photographs on that game, and I tried to re-upload one of them, and it didn't go through. And I tried several times. I could not figure it out. Like something, the editors review everything like individually, like by hand. It's not automated. And if it's got something minga, right, sensitive, it won't go through. So I know the head editor there, and I called him. I was like, "What the hell, man?" I was like, "Why did it just go through?" And he's like, "Let me go talk to him." He's like, "Yeah, it's got something sensitive in it." And I was like, "What?" It's like, "I can't tell you. It's too sensitive. It is too sensitive for me to talk about to you on the phone. The sensitive thing." Okay, right. I don't really follow your news that much. I don't know what's sensitive and what is not. How do you expect me to know that? It's like, you should ask your friends. You should ask your friends what's sensitive. I'm like, I asked my friends? And we discussed it, but he could not tell me. He never did tell me. Eventually it did go through, and I have no idea why. And I even said, like, whatever it is, like, whatever the sensitive thing, like, just, like, don't post that picture. It's fine. Just leave that out. It doesn't matter. He's like, no, I can't do that. But he's like, yeah, I was like, we're really under a lot of pressure from, like, people doing sensitive things. Like, it's very sensitive. He's like, it's not only that, man. He's like, we had a lot of people, like, designing posters in support of the party for whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. It's like, no, that's not allowed either. They don't want that. Like, they do not want you discussing politics at all. That is a huge digression. That's a 15-minute digression. Oh no, I'm under attack. Right. So the point of that, all that was information is difficult to come by. No people here. Where are the firecrackers coming from? Anyway, so brief rundown of like very generalized rundown of politics that get us to our current point. Mao Zedong is first supreme leader from the founding in 1949 up until his death in 1976. After that, small, short, rotund man, Deng Xiaoping takes over. And when he takes over, he is older than, I believe he was older than Mao even. He was just like this doddering old man with like the, they called him, it's kind of funny, Xiao Shou Mao, right? The little panda, because he's short and he's very fat and he chain smokes, and he's got like dark circles under his eyes constantly, possibly from being old, possibly from the chain smoking. And yeah, okay. Oh, another point I want to make is that gosh, how do you even broach this subject? China's very large, extremely large, like so large. So I did this. If you take all the Chinese provinces and all the European countries and you order them by population, okay, only 2 of the top 10 are European countries. They're Russia and Germany. Russia will be number 2. I think Germany's like number 8. All the other rest of them are Chinese provinces. So like the province that I live in now, this is Henan, right? It's larger than France, right? It's larger than France, and it's got its own leaders, it's got its own culture, it's got its own internal politics, yeah, it's just really, really, really big, right? And how can a country this size be governed from centrally, from the top? How does the CCP maintain control over a place this large? And the answer is, it governs extremely lightly, which means like the local governor of, for example, a place like this is quite powerful, right? He doesn't, will generally be doing his own thing most of the time, and not communicating well with Beijing, and maybe not exactly doing what he's told. So during this the Deng Xiaoping era, the mayor of Shanghai is a man named Jiang Zemin, who is going to be he's going to be supreme leader after Deng Xiaoping. Okay, and he kind of rises to power within the party, and Jiang Zemin is extremely corrupt, very, very corrupt, extremely corrupt, very corrupt in a deep state Jeffrey Epstein kind of way. He is a sex pest. He's dead now. He just died recently. He is a sex pest. I don't know that he himself is a PDF file, but there were many PDF file scandals in Shanghai while he was governor there. Okay, and this is the first major faction within the CCP. Okay. The CCP, just like, kind of like the LDP, or like kind of within the Republican Party too, is made up of factions, and these factions are, because they're only one, it's only a single party system, these factions are very important. Right? There's probably more difference politically between two factions in the CCP than would be during, say, in 2000 between the Republicans and the Democrats. Right? Okay, and this is, and I asked Grok about this, and he denies it, but I remember clearly that when during the Tiananmen incident in 1989, when the student radicals, which There's a whole rabbit hole there that I'm not going to get into today. When they met with the government to negotiate terms, Deng was just sitting there smoking, slumped like a sack of potatoes on a chair, and it was Jiang Zemin that actually did the negotiating. So at least I don't know. It feels kind of shadowy to me. There's no actual proof that Jiang was running the government, but he was definitely at that time speaking on behalf of the government. Okay. So the Jiang faction. Let's talk about that. The Jiang faction from when Deng died. Gosh, when did he die? It was 80. It was 88 or 89 or 90, something like that. 92. Gosh, I should have studied for this test. After he dies, Jiang Zemin takes over. Right. Jiang Zemin is very well connected. He is the head of what is called in the Chinese media, not the Chinese media, but the China surrounding media, like the dissident media. We'll call it that. The dissident media, Taiwanese, Hong Kong media. It's called the Shanghai Gang, the Shanghai Clique, or Jiangpai. Jiangpai. Pai is like the generic term for like a faction, right? So Jiangpai. That is the major faction, and then Jiang. Right. Okay. Let's characterize this for a minute. Every horrible thing that you have heard about, almost every horrible thing that you have heard about China, from the organ harvesting to the suppression of Falun Gong to the I don't know, the genocide. If there was, that's when it happened. And the corruption, especially real estate corruption, happens in Jiang Zemin. Okay, it is very similar to what you're reading now in the Epstein files, where like literally, if you want to get ahead, like you will have to do something horrible, right? And I don't know anything about. Well, that's not true. But I don't know about a lot of pedophilia. There was pedophilia, but I do not know that pedophilia is used as a initiation ritual in the Jiang clique, the way it is used in the West. It might be. I just don't know about it. But you would have to give a party official your wife or your daughter, right? And they would just in the other room or right in front of you, right? And that's what you got to do to get initiated. It's gonna rain on me. Extremely corrupt. Okay. Right. So at this time, China has term limits. They serve for 2 5-year terms. So after Jiang's second term, he kind of, not a puppet exactly, but he arranges for Hu Jintao to become premier. Hu Jintao, I do not know that he controls him directly, but he is a member of a different faction called the Communist Youth League faction, which is, if you read different dissident media, that's the faction that they like the most. They're kind of the equivalent of the Democrats, right? There are many legends surrounding the Communist Youth League faction and how they stood up to Jiang Zemin and they confronted him over this, that, or the other thing. I couldn't find any evidence that actually happened, but rumors abound. Right? If they're talking about China in general, like all problem, all bad, but if they're actually getting to like internal politics, it's clear. Like Jiang faction is the bad guys. Communist Youth League, Tuanpai, they are the good guys, generally speaking, but very small. Okay, so Hu Jintao of the Communist Youth League becomes supreme leader after that, and under this facade, I guess you say, the Jiang faction gets like really gets into gear and starts, doing some, like the real estate scandal, the real estate scams, which, you know, you've seen like the images of the big empty cities, right? Right. You want to know what that's about? I'll tell you what that's about. Under the Chinese Constitution, which they believe there is a constitution, believe it or not, the CCP owns all the land, and they can confiscate any land for any purpose that they want. They are required to give compensation, but how much that compensation is, isn't really defined. So they'll just like go into whole neighborhoods, like throw everybody out. And there used to be like, images of like videos of like actual wars, like between people, like fighting, like the peasants fighting the cops, like trying to keep their houses. This is way back, like almost 20 years ago. Changchai, yeah, Changchai. They force you to demolish your house. They'll give you a little bit of money and they're like, get out of here. Then the government would flip the land to a developer, and the developer would build a high rise like that one, and then people would buy it on credit, right? And so the credit market was created basically. I mean, it was created while it was here. There was no credit market 20 years ago, and then suddenly there was. Right? This, and then they would be like they get extremely leveraged, like very, very leveraged, like the money they were taking in, like right now for a high-rise a residential building they were designing, would go to a project that they had that only broke ground like just now, which they had sold like years ago, right? So and like, okay, so where I am here, this is Henan. Per capita, possibly the poorest part of China. That real estate scam accounted for about somewhere between 30 and 40% of the local of this of the economy of the state's income, right? Imagine, okay, and like I said, this place, Henan, more populous than France. I think it's territorially comparable size. So imagine a country the size of France, right? 40% of its income is taken from forcing peasants off land and like building buildings that probably nobody will ever live in. That's the scale. And at this time, right, if you remember, when Jiang Zemin was premier, and also when Hu Jintao was premier, that they were on very good terms with the United States, Clintons and the Bushes, both of them. They got together, they wore dumb clothes, they wore dumb outfits, right? Bush came over here and he wore the Ching Chong Chinese clothes with the dumb hat, and Putin did the same thing, and they all laughed. And then they went to Epstein Island. I bet you that there are records of Jiang Zemin. They're going to redact it because, like, for reasons, because we don't need this kind of trouble in their lives. But I bet you anything that Jiang Zemin went to that island. I bet you he's that kind of guy. He's a total sex pest. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to say this, but during the in the 80s and 90s, when Jiang Zemin was mayor of Shanghai, that there was the Shanghai orphanage scandal happened, in which thousands of Shanghai orphans were molested, killed, right? And the people who tried to blow the whistle on it, they were forcibly confined to insane asylums, and not nationwide, but Shanghai. And in the 90s and the 2000s, that, how we say, pattern of corruption kind of like goes national. Okay. So Hu Jintao serves his 2 terms, and then his 2 terms are up, right? Who else can we identify? Who else can we to be our puppet leader, as it were? And they decide on Jiang himself. The Jiang faction decides on Xi Jinping is going to be their guy. Reasons because he's related to one of the original revolutionaries, right? That's important, but also seen as an outsider because he was a guy that got purged and came back, right? So criticism against the government is kind of ramping up. Like, people are kind of getting upset, right? People know what's going on. They do talk. So we're going to put this guy in who seems like an outsider, and he'll be our puppet guy for the next 10 years. Okay. So they put. Also, if you read there's WikiLeaks dropped a psychological profile on Xi Jinping. You can look it up. It's very interesting. He says Xi is really interested in Buddhist mysticism, not interested in money, incorruptible, and also not super smart, right? But he's very tall and very handsome, and that's important. So incorruptible, seen as an outsider, tall, handsome, not too bright. Sounds like our guy. This is the guy we want. Okay, so they put him in 2012, and they give him a limited mandate to pursue corruption in a very limited kind of a way. And here's where things get interesting. He does that, but round about 2014, the mandate, shall we say, changes, and he begins to purge the Jiang faction, who put him in power, from the upper levels of the CCP, right? And you would notice around that time, around 2014, is when coverage of China kind of did a noser, right? It's like kind of completely did an about face, kind of the way they did on Putin, like a couple of years before that, or Crimea, right? Like, oh no, now China's suddenly an enemy again. That's why. Oh, I left a thing out. Also, when I said like the Bushes and the Jiang faction and the Clintons, like they're all, you know, close. Neil Bush, the brother of George Bush, had a Hunter Biden style like a Burisma agreement with Jiang Zemin's son for I believe it was a telecom company, right, where he would sit on the board and they would, you know, give him kickbacks. Okay. So 2014, Xi Jinping turns on his masters. Weird that he can do that since he's not super smart, but it happens. And to make a long story short, he starts his own faction, right? He starts his own faction, and his own faction, the guys he installs, the guys he initially made his faction out of, are the guys he just purged, like, this year. So he pretends to be nicey nice with a few people he feels like he can trust, or trust him, I suppose we should say. He starts purging the Jiang faction out of the party, right? As of today, it's funny because I used to, pepper AI. I'm always looking for answers, and there just aren't any. I started peppering Grok with like questions about like Chinese politics, and I would always like go refer to checking The Economist, checking like the Atlantic Journal, and all this like crap, and like it would give like, nothing's going on in China, everything is fine, the sun is shining, and everybody loves the leader. But recently, like I tried this tactic, like, okay, I know you're full of crap, okay? I'm someone who's in the know, boy. I know stuff, so don't give me this Atlantic Journal crap. He's like, oh, okay. Well, here's what's actually going on. Okay, like between 20 and 30. and he purged. To this date, according to Grok, 300,000 people have been purged. 300,000 have been purged from the Zhang party, the Zhang faction in the CCP. Oh man, I'm already at 35 minutes, but do you want me to? Who am I talking to? During COVID, man, God, it's so crazy. So, the Zhang faction is fighting back against Xi, like tooth and nail, like for real. There are rumors. It's all rumors. There's nothing but rumors. Only rumors. So, believe what you want to believe, I suppose. But Miles Guo, spy for who knows who, sitting in an American prison right now, just got sentenced, says that Xi has survived 6 assassination attempts. One of these assassination attempts, look up the Tianjin, the port of Tianjin explosion in, I think, 2015. Official story is that it was just a chemical plant that went up. But there are rumors and whispers. Anyway, you look at the side of that, it's like a nuclear bomb went off. It's like this huge explosion that melted cars in the parking lot. It's insane stuff. When just a couple of years back, when he went to, what was it? It went to Samarkand, right, to meet with somebody about. It was like a BRICS meeting, and then he went incommunicado for like a week, and nobody knew where he was. I remember this vividly because I posted rumors. Well, I just asked basically where Xi Jinping was in a group that I ran, and the group got flagged. And everybody left the group because nobody wants to be in a flag group, and now it's dead. I had a fan group, a graphic design fan group with 500 people, and now it's completely gone because stupid me can't keep my mouth shut. Yeah, assassination attacks. Oh yeah, COVID. My brain. Yeah, I'm not gonna say who I think. Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't think that came from Mr. Tall and Handsome. I don't think that came from Mr. Tall. I think that came from for the simple fact that, you know, Wuhan. Why Wuhan? Oh well, it's level 5. Yeah, but it's Wuhan, right? Why would you do something? If there was Chinese involvement in that, it was probably the Jiang guys. I'm almost certain of it. But be that as it may, to, you know, try to knock Xi out. I'll tell you what I'll tell you. That's speculation, but I'll tell you some facts. So you remember during the pandemic when you saw the video of well, there's a couple of things, and I'm going to tie them. First, I'm going to remind you what they are, and then I'm going to see if I can try and tie them together. The people in the buildings, like, screaming, right? The people locked in their buildings, like, screaming across screaming out their windows. That was the thing that happened. And then you also saw, like, the guys in the white, like, beating cats to death, cats and dogs, like putting them in, like beating them to death with a shovel. Okay, here's what happened there. That was all in Shanghai. So, no, I'm not going to talk about that. Yes, I am. It's widely speculated that. So there was one company doing all the PCR tests in China, not connected to the government, private company, doing PCR tests. And it is widely believed, it seems to have been the case that they were kind of taking the government in China. Oh yeah, taking the government of China for a ride, right? Where they would they would make up outbreaks. They would fake these outbreaks. Who knows why? One reason is maybe they're attached to the Jiang people who want Xi Jinping taken down, right? Another reason might be because there are certain businesses who benefit greatly when there is a lockdown, right? Not least of which is Meituan. Meituan is like their Amazon, people who do deliveries, right? And when they declare a pandemic, all the local shop gets closed. Meituan would have a complete monopoly on the entire city, and they would jack their prices up like 4 or 5 times. So you'd have to pay a massive amount for a carrot. Anyway, during one of these, the city of Shanghai gets an outbreak, and they lock the whole city down. Like, okay, all right. So the central government in Beijing, okay, everybody has to stay in their homes. We're gonna do a complete air wall. Nobody goes in, nobody comes out. We're gonna 2 weeks, and then it's gonna be over. Happy New Year. 2 weeks, then it's over, and then lost my train of thought. Holy crap. So they loaded trucks worth of these meals, right? Loaded trucks of meal, trucks, huge, a convoy of trucks into the city of Shanghai to deliver food to all these people. Okay. What happens though? Okay, who controls Shanghai? Jiang Zemin who controls Shanghai. He doesn't let the trucks in, right? And they barricade the roads and won't let all the trucks in. His guys ransack the trucks, throw the food on the ground, set some of the food that did get received, they get set on fire, right? And for that reason, right, the people of Shanghai, people did starve to death in Shanghai. So that happened. Anyway, how was I gonna wrap this up? No, that's all. That's kind of the state of things. That Xi is in power. Okay, but no. Here's how we're gonna wrap this up. It's a little bit strange. How is this guy, who's completely politically isolated, not that bright maybe, right? A total outsider, penetrate this government from the inside, avoid several assassination attacks, and just kind of seems to see everything coming before it happens? How does that happen? Does that remind you of anybody else? Does it remind you of maybe a couple of somebody else's? Is he supported maybe from the outside? Just speculation. Who would it be? Maybe the world's master spy. That's what the rumors say. Who's the greatest spy? Who's the biggest spy in the world? That's right. It's Captain Bear right here. That's who. Anyway, that's 43 minutes, and gosh, boy, I just rambled, didn't I? All right. I think it's gonna rain, and they might blow me up, so I'm gonna turn it off. See you later, guys.